All right, I think we can get going here, guys. It's time to kick it off. It's been a crazy time, but I'm recording in multiple places today. I'll explain why, but I'm recording in multiple places. I got a lot going on this week. Let's get into it. I got to turn the fader up. Okay, here we go.
And we're live. You're listening to the Hashgraph Enthusiast Show.
Hosted by Brandon Davenport, aka itsbrandond.
Wow. Another crazy week in Hedera land, but it feels like an even crazier week in like the crypto industry. It's wild. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about quite a bit today. Geez, what do I have on my list here? I got a bunch of stuff going on. Did I do all the checks I'm supposed to do before I start the show? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, huge shout out real quick first to supporters of the show that, give HBAR tips and all that kind of stuff. As many listening to the show know, I've got new equipment, I've got proper podcasting gear. Show sounds a lot better, and it's actually much easier for me. I can put more time into doing the research and stuff. It's great. And I think that there's a lot of cool things I've planned for the show. One thing last year on the show people were talking about was video content, and, they like short form video content. And they were also like, Brandon, we like the podcast. We love the show. I think a lot of people, do prefer the audio version. I mean, Solo Cisse on Galaxy was like, keep it audio, don't do video. But I think many more people than that, like video. They'd like to see kind of like, hey, what are you looking at on your computer? And like, what stories are you reading? This and that. And also like your webcam and stuff. So I'm trying out something today. I'm doing a test. I don't intend to publish it, but I'm actually recording I have a second monitor set up. It's got all the things I'm going to be reviewing and looking at. And then I've got like a little webcam thing down in the corner, just something simple. Hi, if you're watching this, which I'm not going to release, then here I am. I'm down in the corner here, but I want to start doing some more stuff like that. I am doing some testing. I'm listening to feedback from the show, and yeah, I'm recording the full episode, like as a video. I'll see what I'm going to do with it. I think maybe I'll put it a clip or something, see how it goes. But, with that, hello from Ottawa, Canada, everyone. I already said my name. You already know who I am. It is, January 10th, 2024. I've been doing the thing where like you put the wrong date on stuff. I've already done that like 1,000 times. This is episode 108 of the Hashgraph Enthusiast Show. This is titled "We Are So Back." I'm pretty bold with these titles. I mean, I throw some titles out for this show that like could really bite me in the ass if things go differently. But luckily, this one I think is holding true, even though a rocky road. I think we're all pretty stoked about the Bitcoin ETFs. I think we all feel pretty certain, but yesterday was, definitely interesting. And yeah, so let's take a look at what we're going to be talking about today. I mean, of course, Bitcoin ETF stuff. SKUx, which is a finance play in the Hedera ecosystem, has been awarded like this patent that involves Hedera, which is really important that I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about Davos and Hedera going to Davos, what that all means. I know a lot of people were like comparing it to last year, lots of interesting posts from the community that I'll talk about, like kind of news and some different things. Got some questions from the community. We're going to talk a little bit about Hashpack. The SaucerSwap sent me a message just to a question that I had that I'll read out. Just kind of cool. I haven't read it yet. I wanted to kind of read it with everybody on the show. Canon has a new camera that's leveraging a technology that leverages Hedera. It's very interesting. We're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff. HSuite, the new exchange that's online, bunch of good stuff. I'm super stoked. It's been a big week. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for subscribing, all that good stuff. I really appreciate the support. If anyone's listening right now, I see all you listening right now. Hello. I hope you all are doing well. For everyone listening live right now, give a quick share of the show. The more, the merrier. If you've got some news or anything like that, any breaking news or anything interesting I should talk about on the show, throw it in the comments on the spaces. Like there's a little comment button at the bottom right. I'll bring people up. We'll chat. We'll figure out what's going on. We'll get through the stories, but shout out also too to the people listening on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. Also, hashgraph.news. I bought that domain name. Goes to the new website. There's a new website. It's got all the past episodes. It's got all the links you need, all that good stuff. Hashgraph.news. I can't believe I got that domain name. How sick is that? So let's just dive into it here. One of the first things I wanted to mention was that came across my timeline. Today marks the first tweet mentioning Bitcoin. So, January 10th, 2009 at Halfin tweets, Halfini writes, running Bitcoin. So it's the first time it was mentioned. And it's so funny that supposedly the Bitcoin ETFs are going to be approved by the SEC today. So it's kind of interesting. Now, talking about the Bitcoin ETF stuff, we'll probably have to come back to it later in the show. It's obviously an evolving story. No one really knows exactly what's going to happen. Although I think that the general consensus is these are going to be approved. It's just kind of what does it, how does this actually unfold? What is the actual reaction to it? And basically just a quick catch up is it's hard to kind of definitively say, here's what's going on with Bitcoin ETFs. What's easier is to just kind of give a quick catch up and just chat about, what's going on. And it's weird. Now that I'm trying out this new thing, it's hard to remember to put what I'm doing on my screen so everyone can see it. For people tuning in late, I'm just doing an experiment. Probably not going to release it. I'm recording this episode on, webcam and my computer screen and stuff. So just want to see how it goes. Maybe, I don't know if I'll put it out, but, so on the 8th, Gary Gensler, chair of the SEC, the main guy, I think that has drawn, large ire from the crypto community. He tweeted, on the 8th, a thread, some things to keep in mind if you're considering investing in crypto assets, and goes to put out this thread of advice, which was interesting. And then I wanted to mention on that is Nilmini Rubin, the head of policy for Hedera, I think said it best, was in an article recently. She said, quote, "We want policymakers to understand the richness of the technology so that any rules they want to put in place enable that technology to benefit customers. If they only think about it from addressing fraud that have been committed by bad players, they're going to potentially throw the baby out with the bathwater. We definitely don't want to see that happen." So it's this common trend of these two sides battling that have been battling for a long time in the crypto industry of as this gains mass adoption, regulation comes in, and it's there's different approaches, and the SEC has kind of been, aggressive, off the mark, whatever you want to call it. But that's a great point. Now, $2.8 billion USDT was minted. This was something else that I feel is kind of loosely related to this, but on the 9th, so yesterday, there was $2.8 billion USDT minted from the Tether treasury, then deposited into exchanges. So some speculating that, what that could be in relation to the Bitcoin ETFs, money moving. Then interestingly, the HBAR Foundation tweeted out just before the craziness kicked off yesterday, they tweeted out, "The institutions are investing in the Bitcoin ETF they already own, govern, and build on Hedera. Diversify today, Hedera.com." So, very corporate tweet, but interesting. That was posted right before all the craziness popped off. Maybe good timing. I don't know. How many likes did that get? 515 likes. So good tweet or some good post. Good stuff. Then there was the big kind of like kerfuffle, which was the SEC account got hacked. Like the SKUx account. No, I shouldn't say got hacked. I have that in my notes. I wrote that when it was happening. So it didn't get hacked. Basically what happened was, what did I tweet? Oh yeah. I took a huge L yesterday too. Cause right as the approval happened, I was like super smart, super on the ball. I thought of a great meme to post. The one of like well, I guess I can kind of just show you. Let me go to my timeline. I don't even know why I care about this. I'm not even posting this video version, but I'm trying to commit to it. That's what me recording myself on video is all about for this episode. It's all about preparing myself, training myself, even though I'm not going to post it. You know, it's all about understanding the flow. I posted this meme. It's like, you know, the FUD leaving my body now that the ETF's approved, literally like didn't age well. And it was only alive for like a minute. But yeah, the SEC account got hacked. So what happened was, the SEC tweeted out, hey, you know, this ETF or these ETFs have been approved. And what that means is that here's the screenshot, or I'm talking to people like they're watching the video. But anyways, I'm learning, guys. So they tweeted this out and there was like a graphic and everything. And they tweeted out, you know, the SEC grants approval for Bitcoin ETF listings, you know, across exchanges and blah, blah, blah. So that's from the SEC account. And remember, just recently, the SKUx account tweeted, the only way to get trusted information about the SEC is the SEC account. So, and it's funny too, there's this ongoing meme now of all of these previous posts that the SEC has made in relation to like protecting your assets and being secure and best practices. And so it's kind of humorous, but anyways, that was tweeted out. People freaked out. There was like a graphic. So you know, it's fair to say many are speculating, and I'd have to agree that this was like a scheduled post, you know, that the person who obtained access to the account basically kind of like got into the account. I think initially they tweeted out the ticker Bitcoin, then deleted it. And I guess there was a drafted tweet, and then they posted the drafted tweet. That's kind of what, you know, has been thrown out there. Then Gary Gensler tweets out, you know, hey, the SEC account was as he says, compromised. An unauthorized tweet was posted. So no verbiage there to kind of indicate that things were hacked or breached or whatever. But it kind of got really interesting because on the news, I think on like CNBC or Fox Business or one of those, there was a news host that was like, you know, X was hacked and the SEC account did X and Y and Z. And X ended up posting, you know, they did an internal investigation and the SEC just didn't have two-factor authentication configured. So someone got control of a number tied to the account and, you know, just like got access to the account and started posting stuff. I mean, you got to turn two-factor authentication on. The SEC did a post, I think last year, about how important it is to have two-factor authentication. How are they going to keep your guys' money safe down there? Now, where it starts to get really hilarious is because of this, well, I shouldn't say hilarious. I mean, a lot of people lost a lot of money because of the SEC. But basically when they tweeted that out, that initial approval, Bitcoin, of course, rocketed up. And then when it was announced that it was not true, then Bitcoin rocketed down. So people lost money, all that kind of stuff. But then it raised voices from, you know, lawyers and those on the legal side saying, well, the SEC is going to have to investigate itself over market manipulation. So there's now all of these different, you know, conversations around what's happened and how ridiculous it is. Like if you can think of the worst possible scenario to unfold for the SEC with the Bitcoin ETF stuff, it's this. It's just insanity. So today, BlackRock cut its spot Bitcoin ETF fee to 0.25%. So that's pretty, for you arguably a specialized ETF with a MER of like 0.25%. That's pretty good. So shout out BlackRock. Also, the Chicago Board Options Exchange, the largest U.S. options exchange, has approved some of the ETFs pending SEC approval. So like, that's the thing here, is all of the different things are moving in the right direction for approval. There's no kind of like major red flags happening in regards to these being approved. All that's really happened so far is just catastrophic public relations issues on the SEC side and potential legal issues. So I think many are kind of looking at this objectively and kind of going like, hey, in the fight for proper regulation and, less, the SEC being too overbearing on crypto, it's like, this is definitely the SEC losing a lot of footing. So it's going to be a rocky road to mass adoption, but that's the latest on the Bitcoin ETF stuff. I'm going to keep an eye on kind of what's going on like the trending on X. That's really kind of the best place to follow along with what's going on. I don't think anything has been approved yet, so we'll have to see. Maybe it'll happen on the show. Maybe it'll happen after. Purportedly, it's supposed to be happening today, but honestly, who knows? Our next main story of the day is regarding SKUx. This is really, really interesting because, sorry, I'm just getting a message. This is really interesting because this is involving patents, and I think a lot of people in the Hedera community are always very interested and very excited about Hashgraph or Hedera or the technology being mentioned in patents. I think that it definitely legitimizes the technology. I think that other L1s are mentioned so often in patents. I think that it also shows kind of a new level of adoption. And this one is from SKUx. SKUx, a leader, and I'm just going to read a quick excerpt from the top of the press release and the title. So basically, they've been approved a U.S. patent to empower merchant item level payment acceptance. Sorry, my microphone's kind of in my face here. So SKUx, a leader in digital instant payments, is pleased to announce that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has granted SKUx 2 patents, number, whatever 697, and then number whatever 435. They're like long patent numbers. You can just kind of say the last 3 digits in this context. For item level payments and processing technology. And the links for all this stuff will be up on hashgraph.news. So this is what's really interesting. So these 2 patents involving Hedera, kind of broken down, what they mean is this is the 697 patent is about a new way to handle special offers and payments for specific items at stores. Imagine you have a coupon for a specific brand of cereal. Normally, the store's computer system has to talk to another system to check if the coupon is valid. But with this new technology, that check happens right at the store's cash register without needing to communicate with any outside system. This is really helpful in situations like the U.S. healthy benefits market, which is a big area where people buy specific health-related items. In 2023, this market was worth about $200 billion. So that's the first patent. And that definitely falls in the wheelhouse of what Hedera is all about. And as we know, SKUx, is leveraging the Hedera technology to build these solutions. And then so the 435 patent refers to a technology that links special offers like coupons, gift cards, and similar items directly with a customer management system, so a CRM or CMS. This means that when a company wants to give a special deal to their customers, they can do it more efficiently and track it in real time. It's like when you get a personalized coupon code or gift card from a store. This technology makes it easier to send these offers and understand how people use them, especially as useful for tracking rebates on customer goods, which are expected to become really popular by 2026, with many rebates being given out as gift cards. So again, when we talk about kind of like the tokenization of payments, the tokenization of things, and then also like the new coupon standards and where things are kind of headed, and also kind of like, you know, conversations around HCS 20 kind of come into play on this, which is like, hey, there's this new kind of meta protocol on the consensus service, and you've got, you know, a project that's tracking you know, the production of their hot sauce using it or something like that currently. And that's, you know, in this kind of like experimental phase. You know, it's like these types of technologies are permeating all throughout different industries. And we're naturally going to reach a point on the timeline where people start to be awarded patents for technologies that incorporate, you know, Hedera, Hashgraph, other blockchains, other L1s. It's always been happening. But I think for Hedera, it's like this new wave, because we've been in this cycle of, you know, 5 or some odd years where these enterprises have been building and building and building. And we've said, you know, it takes a long time. You got to be patient. Enterprise moves slow. Is this a sign of like, it also a little bit ties into some of the sentiment I've heard from people at Swirlds and Hedera and the foundation, this and that, of being very optimistic and excited about this year, especially the first half, yada, yada, yada. Is this a sign of things to come in the short term? Like, are we, you know, is there going to be a bit of a ramp up in these types of announcements or types of progress on different use cases? You know, when you get patents and stuff, that's great. Also too, like the press release says, you know, partnered with Hedera Hashgraph, the multi-patented SKUx solution incorporates a one-way cryptographic signature, the end result of which provides a zero knowledge proof, further mitigating payment fraud. So that's another key component of this. And, you know, ZKPs, zero knowledge proofs, have been like really top of mind for so many people in the ecosystem, and especially with, you know, a bunch of the different use cases on Hedera. So this is very interesting as well. And then there's, you know, a few quotes here. So these patents and several pending patents demonstrate, so right there, you know, they've got more patents coming. Demonstrates our commitment to developing digital payments innovations benefiting merchants and their valued partners, said Guy Berg, Senior Vice President at SKU Pay Network. Merchants don't want to share basket information with third parties, and we're excited to provide a solution that eliminates that need and simultaneously lowers their acceptance costs. So again, it's what it's all about, is like tokenizing, tracking these purchases, performing actions on those. You've got coupons, you've got a lot of different elements baked into this. Then you've got the privacy aspect. You've got the desire to restrict the type of data shared in certain aspects. So all these different problems are being solved, implemented, patented now, it appears. And it's like, I feel there's so much infrastructure being built on Hedera that we don't even know about yet. But anyways, SKUx, we've talked about them a lot on the show. They've been doing a lot of things in the ecosystem at a high level. Good to see this kind of stuff. I want to talk now about our one of our, you know, other main stories is Hedera at Davos. Watched, you know, quite a few things on this, read quite a few things on this, looked into quite a few things on this, and I think I got a pretty good idea of what Hedera Davos is going to be all about. So if we go to hedera.com/Davos 2024. So the website's set up very similar to last year. They got an agenda, they got speakers, and there's a few important pieces of information about this. So I think that off the top, when we talk about Davos 2024 and we're talking about, you know, the World Economic Forum, WEF and stuff like that, I think that it definitely is a polarizing topic. I think that a lot of people have strong opinions, you know, either way about it. And it definitely feels like, you know, the antithesis of what crypto is about. Now, the other side to it is, and I think where I land on it is, you know, I think that that's definitely a debate and this discussion that needs to be had. But the reality is in the current time where we're at now and wanting to see the success of the Hedera network, I think it's important for, you know, representatives from the governing council and Hedera and this and that to be at places like Davos and be with these people and have a seat at the table and, you know, help shape a lot of what's going to be happening. You know, I think that's really important. And I think that, you know, you can definitely, again, make the argument both sides, but I think that what we can all agree on is like, I think it's important that Hedera is involved in that, especially if they're going to be really heavy on ESG and carbon offset credits and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I talk about it on the show a lot, but that's just kind of where I land on it. I mean, I think, you know, the argument is truly valid that, like, you know, WEF is like the antithesis of what crypto is all about. But again, it's good to have, you know, Web3 L1 with such a strong presence and connections in that place, you know, giving influence. You know, it's a very, very bad proxy for, you know, regular people in the community to kind of like be connected in that way, but it is one. So now there was a really great explanation kind of like that of what Davos was all about. Just because I think that, you know, last year was very exciting for a lot of people in the community, mostly because when Hedera was at Davos, there was like a pump in HBAR. And I think that the best way to explain Davos was, you know, Max Walker Williams, who, by the way, did a great video published late yesterday with Zenobia and Christian, who are really, I feel, kind of, and Claudio at Hedera, who's kind of like the head of marketing, really kind of spearheading this, breaking it down. Like, what does the hotel look like? Where is it? What's this all about? Great video. I encourage everyone to go watch it. Max Walker Williams, shout out. But I think that they explained it best where it's like, and when you read in between the lines, you can kind of see that maybe the, you know, values and mission and what have you of, you know, WEF and all that kind of stuff maybe doesn't mesh up exactly with everybody at Hedera, but they see the value and how they describe it is basically, you know, it's a shortcut and it's access. That's really what it is. It's really hard to get connected to the people at Davos, and like, who's at Davos? It's like hundreds of executives from like Fortune 500. It's government power brokers. It's key players. It's the people involved in the important decisions, right? So it's all those people, and it's so hard to get a hold of those people. It can take 6 months, a year and a half to get a hold of, you know, somebody high up at one of those big companies to start conversations about stuff. It's really, there's so much that goes into building those types of partnerships. Many of the people that attend Davos often say like they get more done in that week than they do in the first half of the year, or whatever it may be. And it's just because you just bump into people because you're there. It's like you'll bump into the CEO of some like major corporation or this or that, or they might stumble upon you or have questions for you. So I think that's really what it comes down to. Is I think the angle Hedera is coming at it from is like access, shortcuts, and they've said, you know, on the an HBAR Foundation Spaces that happened, I believe yesterday. That's great. People should listen to it again. And I highlight the Davos stuff because I mean it's important. Like if HBAR pumped because of it last year, it's important, and you know we should really chat about it. Their sole focus is filling the pipeline with people at Davos for, you know, the governing council and use cases. I think they've really honed in on a focus. I think it's the most obvious. I think it's inevitable. It's like, if that's what if that's what it is, you know, a shortcut and access to certain people, then that's a good focus to have, I'd say. And essentially the blurb on the Hedera website, up here is Hedera will have a continuous presence throughout the week at Steigenberger, Icon, Grand Hotel, Belvedere. Probably butchered that. I didn't butcher Belvedere. I butchered the first word. Our activities at this esteemed hotel will include hosting a series of events at the main bar, as well as organizing private invite-only dinners and lunches centered around the topics of tokenization, demystifying digital asset management, and exploring how blockchain can effectively govern innovation. So, you know, they're setting out their mission there. And last year they learned, and when I say they, you know, I'm talking about, you know, Zenobia, Christian, Hedera, Claudio, you know, they learned that Davos can be really noisy. So they needed, you know, to be a little bit louder. Oh, Justin, JP Morgan CEO, says Bitcoin is worthless again. So that's just Justin from the Watcher Guru Twitter account. they learned that, Davos is busy, right? Davos is just a busy place. You got to be way louder. And I think that the Hedera house, I think that where I initially came into it, I was like, oh, they're going to a hotel, last year seems like it was a little bit better. They had a whole, building, they had a whole Hedera house. Now they're just at a hotel. And the rationale was really interesting because at the Hedera house, they had like one meeting room. And a lot of people kind of had to go to the Hedera house. And I think that was a bottleneck for Hedera, right? I think they didn't have enough meeting space. That's the sense that I got. They didn't have enough space to do media. It wasn't the space for the event. And, they say, Davos is a really strange event. It really is. I mean, it just right off the top, it sounds really weird. So this year they're focusing more on like a targeting audience, more curated events from speakers. They want to focus less on giving hard pitches and more on the broad strokes. I can get behind that. An event, they're really focusing on like the CFOs and CIOs, it seems, the people in control of the money decisions. I think that they want to broaden their views on crypto and get them comfortable with like the digital asset stuff. And I think Hedera is in a position to do that. I mean, their slogan for Davos is the blockchain the public blockchain for business. Now, many in the, Hedera community will be like, well, Hedera is not a blockchain, it's a Hashgraph. But it kind of goes to what they're mentioning is like, listen, Davos is noisy, and it's like you have to have a snappy hook that people can connect with. And, blockchain is a word that people can connect with. As of yet, Hashgraph is still kind of a word that people will get excited about. But if they see it, walking down the street or driving or, meandering around Davos, it's not going to jump out at them. So the public blockchain for business. And the other interesting thing here too is like Lehman and like those other people, they're also going to be speaking about stuff at other panels at Davos. So it's not just going to be like Lehman and these other folks in the Hedera crowd speaking at, the Hedera location or the Hedera events. They're going to be going out and speaking, out at other events at Davos. And it kind of follows the theme where they mentioned a bunch of governing council members are going out and basically they're going out either in their own capacity, they're going out for their company, but they're kind of going to be playing multiple roles. So it's like, I get the sense too that Hedera may have a larger footprint also through some of those governing council members and partnered organizations that are also going to be dispersed around Davos, which is interesting. Now, the downside that they spoke to was they're not going to have a way to have a dedicated space to showcase use cases. So if people remember last year at Davos, Hedera had there was like a scarf, I think it was like an Hermes scarf that had the @my.io tracking demo on it. And it was really cool. And this and that, I think like Max Walker Williams, kind of like did a video about that. And this year they're not going to have that. I think they're going to have TVs up and around, kind of showcasing different aspects of the network. I think you could definitely say that's a downside, but I can understand the audience. Like, again, thinking about the audience at Davos and needing to kind of stand out and be loud, you kind of have to take a different approach. I think they're taking that network approach. Right. They want to, as they said in Max Walker Williams' video, they said they want to create FOMO with compelling speakers. Right. And the speakers are, they've got folks from, of course, like Swirlds Labs, but then they've got folks from Deloitte. And I mean, that's the largest professional services network by revenue. And it's one of the big four accounting firms. It's crazy. They've got folks from Amina Bank, one of the world's first crypto banks. They've got a board member from at Big Lots, which has 22,000 employees, a discount retail chain. And again, you start to think about use cases. Board member at PetMed, which is an online pharmacy based in the U.S. They're going to have people from Equity Lab, Coinbase, the chief financial officer from Coinbase, right? Talk about matching things up. If they're targeting CFOs, one of their speakers is the CFO for Coinbase. That's pretty great, right? At the Hedera location. There's like some astronauts, space people. Brett McDowell, of course, is going to be the chair of the Hedera board. There's going to be other Hedera people there. Lots of people. And most interestingly too, Charles Atkins, the president of Hedera, will be there too. It's going to be really interesting to see kind of how he integrates into the vibe, like what like, how does he operate? It's going to be really interesting to see him kind of operate at that level, speak, those types of things. Really, he was announced president. We had the holidays. It's been mostly just Twitter and some interviews. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see him in his element, and kind of what he's doing. And the other thing too, the last thing to mention on this too, is just like the location and kind of the strategy around this. One of the things that stood out to me was Zenobia said it's really hard to find kind of like food and drinks at Davos. It's like, you're constantly trying to figure out like where you're going to get your next meal from. And so Zenobia was like, let's do it at the hotel bar at this hotel that's literally across the street from like the hub of Davos. It's like the most premier location you can have. Everybody's going to be going to this bar. They're making the name of the bar HBAR. And so people are going to be just going to this central place. And Hedera will be there with all of these kinds of people. And I don't know, I think it's going to be a really interesting approach that's, I think, very, very different than last year. So I think initially, like looking at the announcements regarding Davos 2024, all those different types of things, I think that my initial thought was, this year is not going to be as big of a presence at Davos as it was last year. But now that I look at it closer, it's really more just different. And we're going to find out if it's bigger or not. I think that my assumption is this is more geared towards the crowd. I think last year's Davos was more of a generic approach, right? Like that, the Hedera house was basically like the standard booth, but bigger and more robust, right? It was an area for meetings. It was some food. It was some TV. There was a TV. There was a thing, standard event stuff. This shindig that Hedera is doing at Davos this year definitely feels more bespoke to the crowd, the location. The thinking behind it is really important. Like they mentioned, they're going to have signage on the hotel, big banners going down the side of this, prime real estate hotel at Davos. And there's this queue of vehicles that have to line up to go through security checks. And they're just going to be staring at, looking around. It's the scenery, the buildings, and they're going to be looking around. They're going to be seeing, Hedera, the public blockchain for business and those different things. And so I think the branding presence is going to be big. So yeah, honestly, and I got to give credit again to Max Walker Williams, and I want to encourage that kind of content in the community. Like it's great to kind of see the pitch deck, or not the pitch deck, but like the deck of, Zenobia and Christian. Here's what the event is. Here's all the details. Here's the hotel looks like, all that kind of stuff. Similar to last year. I love that. I think it's good. It's good for everyone to know. And also too, I think that Red Swan, Hedera use case, will be at Davos. Solo from Galaxy will be at Davos. And I don't know, just looking at the names, looking at what's happening, I just think that it's going to be a very interesting thing to kind of, watch unfold. It's going to be wild. Taking a sip of my Diet Coke. Pluto, I see you down there. Shout out to you, Pluto. Thank you for tuning in all the time. But I am drinking Diet Coke. Now, I asked the community a question. Maybe I'll pin it to the top here. About HCS 20. I tweeted that out a while ago. Definitely before the SEC lost their Twitter password or whatever. Here we are. I'll pin this to the top. I was asking this question. I was like, hey, what's people's thoughts on HCS? I'll chat about it a little later. But if anyone listening right now live on X has kind of thoughts or opinions or questions about it or whatever, again, use that little, comment button at the bottom right and, check it out. Let me know. Happy to read it out on the show. Also, too, real quick, we're approaching the 3rd year of the show, which is crazy. We're well over 100 episodes. And just want to, again, appreciate people, supporting the show, sending HBAR tips to the show. One of the things I love to do is kind of share screenshots of the notifications I get from LedgerWorks Sentry. Unfortunately, that product was shut down. It was a great service on Hedera that sent you an email alert about activity on your Hedera account. It was great. I used it all the time. One of the things I loved using it for was when someone sent a contribution or tip to the show, an HBAR tip, I'd get an email and I could share a screenshot. So I'm going to be checking the wallet soon, thanking people for the contributions. But it's going great. We've got enough contributions. Like I said, we got new equipment. We're rocking and rolling. It's going good. We've covered, every major news story here. Many great guests. This is an independent show. No sponsors, no ads, none of that. Brought to you by listeners like you, all that. And it's growing. I mean, some episodes are across all platforms are, breaking 1,000 listeners and stuff like that. And, this is a live show. It's not video yet. And I think really what's important to me is just really trying to hone in on the quality of the content, the news, the information, what's going on with everything. So we're getting there together. You can support the show, by checking out the post pinned to the top of the spaces and also just a hashgraph.news. There's a, Hedera account ID. You can send HBAR to or whatever token you'd like and support the show. Really appreciate it. Even a few bucks add up. So yeah, do what you got to do. Now, one of the other things is, Lehman tweeted out, this was something really interesting just on the topic of tweets going out, getting deleted, rolled back. Lehman tweeted out a really nice tweet this morning or last night or whenever it was, with the CTO of the Algorand Foundation, and the CEO of the Algorand Foundation tweeted out a picture of him and Lehman and said, "It's so great to discuss post-quantum and interoperation with the wonderful at Lehman Baird." And then Lehman Baird tweets out, "We are stronger as an industry when we put our minds together." So there's always been not always, but recently there's been a little bit of speculation regarding the relationship between Hedera and Algorand. I think on a recent episode when I was talking about some of the predictions the community had in regards to governing council members, a few times, Algorand came up. It wouldn't be crazy to have an L1 as a governing council member. I think that, many people in the ecosystem have spoken to that. And the other interesting thing was, so originally this was tweeted out by the Hedera account, this image and retweet, and then it was deleted, and then it was tweeted out from Lehman's account. So I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if Hedera couldn't speak to something or whatever that might be, but that was just kind of an interesting observation. But clearly, Algorand and Hedera have some kind of relationship. I mean, Lehman's hanging out. Earthlings is a great use case on Hedera, gaming use case. They just shared today, after kind of an exclusive release on Galaxy for the video trailer of their game, their metaverse, their use case. Looks really, really great. We've talked about them on the show before. And it looks awesome. This is the Village video. Go check it out. I mean, this is a Hedera gaming use case, Earthlings. Shout out to Milan as well, who's involved at, I guess, Hedera Dev. Super excited for this. I mean, gaming on Hedera is great. I think Charles Atkins tweeted this out as well. So definitely love from the community for Earthlings. 34,000 TPS on testnet was spotted today, which was interesting. Don't quite know exactly what that's about. Let's take a look at the live TPS. Like it's at 11,000 right now. Now, the Hedera transactions website has sometimes been notorious for errors, like errors in calculation or how those numbers are calculated. On a previous episode, we talked about an article on the Hedera blog from Ed Marquez that outlined how TPS is calculated on the Hedera network. And what it revealed was ways in which those calculations could kind of be messed up or have errors depending on how your, tech stack is set up for your website, similar to hederatransactions.com. And I'm looking at the testnet now and it's at 11,000 TPS. There was screenshots on X recently from Ray at Dead Pixels, 37,000 transactions per second on Hedera testnet. So, I mean, if that's correct, I don't know if Metrica has the ability to look at the testnet, but clearly some stuff is going on if that's true. And testnet has been that high before, right? Testnet has been rocking at 10,000 transactions per second for weeks at a time, for months at a time. Albeit sometimes it's spam or something goofy. For a while there was 10,000 transactions of Grelf, but it'll be on the testnet, but it'll be interesting kind of see like how the community gets to the bottom of this. Cause it, piqued my interest. That's for sure. I got a question as well, from the HBAR gremlin on X, asking about HCS 20 and HIP 657 and will we ever see new market participants and this and that. I think in regards to the question of like, will we ever see new market participants? I guess, Graham, you mean like, in Hedera? I think that, when we look at that, it definitely is driven by the crypto industry. And right now that's kind of in limbo. Like it has been for a long time on so many different things. Like there was a bear market, there was a pending Bitcoin ETF. There's pending regulations, there's pending this, pending that, this soon, that soon. And we're definitely seeing, a lot of volatility and price action and stuff. And with that, it's going to start to generate excitement. So I think that will we ever see new market participants? I think, yeah, we are. Of course we are. I think it's growing quite a bit right now. I think in recent memory, there was a number quoted of like, I think it was from Coinbase. There's like, 48 million people in America that, have interacted with or hold crypto. So it's like, it's a huge number. So I think that when we look at Hedera, it's really about just building out, I think the gateway for a lot of this stuff is going to be DeFi. So I really think it's about building out DeFi on Hedera. I think that's really important right now. We need stuff like retail oracles. We need to have conversations about wrapped HBAR. We need to foster innovation and new types of, borrowing and lending and all these different types of things. Like we need to build out the DeFi ecosystem. And part of that, like DeFi is decentralized finance. Like part of that is, stuff like meme coins, all these kinds of strange things that come with it. That's exciting. That's fun. That's what draws people in. That's what gets people excited. Right. So, and across the board too, like, unfortunately, most of the innovation on Hedera's end when it came to NFTs last year was changing fees. Right. Not a whole lot happened on Hedera's end. And I think that what you prioritize is what's going to succeed. So I think that if Hedera does in fact want to see these types of things succeed, I do think that one criticism I'd offer is just, prioritize these things, even though they might be outside the scope of like traditional enterprise or whatever goals that the governing council might have. I think that a lot of these types of things can support that, because at the end of the day, if the price of HBAR goes up, it's kind of what we all want. You know what I mean? So we can all work towards that. Now, on the other topic, in regards to HCS 20, so funny. I just saw Patches pop in. Patches, I'll extend an invite to you if you'd like to hop up just for a quick chat. But yeah, there's like questions around HIP 657 and HCS 20. And wanted to, it's funny, Patches. I was actually on X, HBAR Graham, he sent me a question and he was kind of looking for information about HCS 20 and HIP 657 and updates and stuff. And, just over, I'd say even the past like 24 or 12 hours, like so much has happened with HCS 20. I was curious if you had any kind of updates for people, like you crossed 10 million transactions, like, you know, what's going on that you're most excited about with HCS 20 right now?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good time to pop in. I'm not currently I'm trying to solve problems. So it's hard to, iterate on ideation of innovation. I'm like, Cantor, me, and we have a working group. Pluto's in there. We got Matt Smitty's. We have just a bunch of devs, Hashgate. You know this. You're helping, starting to create this working group for HCS. We're all just like considering how does this work? Because like last night I got my indexer to work up to 11.5 million and then it broke, and because there's like 12.5 million. So yeah, an NFTer right now, there's no way to see the state of HCS 20. NFTer is re-indexing because there's some invalid transactions that are getting populated.
Gotcha.
And messing with the supply. So yeah, we're just trying to figure out scale because like overnight we have an enterprise scale solution. Like multiple millions of incoming events need to be processed to get state. And that's not it's not a small task. And like we had the first solution and that broke after 50K. I created the second solution and by the time it was done, it didn't work. So it's like,
right. Yeah. It's like that cartoon where you're laying the train track as the train's going, you know?
Right.
It's where you're at right now.
Exactly. And the train's in front of us. So
right.
That's the analogy. And it's, the worst part is every time it fails, you have to start over. So you're further away from the train.
Cause it has to query everything.
Right. And we have rate limits. So like I can only pool so fast. I'm using Validation Cloud because the mainnet one has a gate on it.
Right.
And I can only pull so fast. And last night I was watching the TPS of the topic ID and it was fluctuating from 100 to 400 TPS and I'm pulling it at 300 TPS. So I'm not even catching up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm losing ground.
Wow.
And it's, this is a problem that I don't think any other inscription service has had because the speed and finality of transaction is so fast. Like I really want to, I think like maybe 20 to 50 people are involved in HCS 20 maximum.
Yeah.
And then, they're just sitting there clicking this one button that submits the transaction. And because of a bug, like that little spinner is supposed to be over the button and the button's supposed to be disabled. But I was just like, just send it. I'll fix that later. Right. You can just sit there and hammer it. And because Hedera consensus service is really good, and the Electron app that I built has a pretty nice memory stack because it's a V8 Chrome. Like it's how Electron work. No one cares about that. It's a cool app, and it can stack a lot of like memory there. So you're sitting there hammering it, and the stack will be high, and it'll actually process all of them.
Wow.
So that's why this looks like there's a bunch of bots because people are just sitting there clicking this one button that's supposed to disable until it goes through, but it doesn't.
Crazy.
So. I don't know. This is a really fun, hard problem. I think people are saying it feels like a hackathon. Cantor said that. Yeah. It could not predict this amount of transaction growth. And at this point, we have to like start figuring out how do we fund something that can index this because it is enterprise level infrastructure to keep up with balance and throughput. And that's not cheap. So we're still figuring it out. It's fun. It's not sleeping much since I launched it, but that's just how it goes. Holiday break back into Web3.
That's exciting though. And it is true. It's like the move fast, break things kind of stuff. It's that startup culture. It's that fresh energy. I think something's kind of blown through crypto. I mean, we've seen some green candles. We've seen some excitement. I think that just people are kind of more open to things and crazy stuff like this is going to happen. I think that this type of concept has washed up on the shores of many other networks. Like you said, you know, a lot of people are doing inscriptions along the same standard. So it's nice for Hedera to be on this kind of crazy ride. I'd say, I think that there's many valid criticism of it, but I think that in the big scheme of things, you know, be part of the conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's, you know, I know the rollout has been confusing, and as, you know, some people are quick to judge without pulling through the confusion. And I think that's all good. You know, what is it? There's no bad news, or all news is, I don't know it off the top of my head. No such thing as bad press.
Yes.
And so everyone's talking about it, and that's the market effect. And again, you know, I went over to Ordinals. I was there. I've been there for now a year, coming up on a year. Learned a lot. Like I when a market that is billions of dollars in value is sprung up over weeks, in your industry, you should pay attention, even if you think it's really, really silly. And it is silly. And Ordinal started on spreadsheets, and this is why, right? Like we're now living why that is. And it's not, you know, it's just the entry point that we're talking about. The 12.5 million transactions, that's the entry point. That's the hype. You know, it is in 19,000 people's wallets. They were airdropped, but it's in the wallets.
Yes.
These are all true things that are happening on our version of what is BRC20 on this main topic ID. And the wealth of utility and value is on the private topic IDs, on the inventory tracking, the ESG tracking, the AI weighting algorithms. There's a huge unlock that this can conceptually bring to a lot of smart, creative people in our ecosystem that we've already seen that just blow me away in 5-6 days. So it's confusing. I'm sorry, but it does seem to be working.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, from your side, I think that when you talk about this type of open source development and this type of stuff, it's like the concern I think a lot of people think about is you're going to be fighting resistance to the idea. But I think the bigger threat is like you're fighting against indifference. It's like you want some noise. You want, you know, whether it's good or bad, you want people to be aware of it, you know, because that's how this type of stuff comes to fruition, is like everyone kind of being aware, talking about it. We've got a great technology, like you said, you know, the consensus service is a blank canvas. It's like, here's an attempt to give some structure to it. It's cool. You know, I think it's interesting. I dig it. I'm excited to kind of like experiment with it more. And I'm happy to be a part of that kind of like stand up working group and kind of bringing people together. I think what we need right now is fun. This is fun. So, you know, I will take it coming out of last year.
Yeah. A lot of people told me that it feels like, trading NFTs when the token service came out,
Yes.
but we didn't really have wallets.
This is doing the same thing to my brain as minting a punk on a Google form. It's like, I am so excited right now. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just so excited right now. I'm just happy to be here, you know?
Making Hedera exciting again. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome, man. I think HBAR Gremlin also was asking about HIP 657. I think the line on that is just like, you know, I think it's coming soon. You know, it's one of those types of things.
Yeah, in any official capacity, I can't say anything.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, you know, I'm pushing it as much as I am able.
Yeah, I'm talking to Turtle Moon Patches. Swirl's Patches is currently at work right now. I brought Hangry up, NFT legend in the Hedera ecosystem. And I know, Hangry, I don't know if you've had a chance to check out the HCS20 stuff. I know that you're probably the first person or one of the first in the community to dive into ordinals. I was curious to see, as a creator, kind of like what your thoughts on HCS20 was, if you kind of had any.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I remember when ordinals first came out, and I started talking to Patches, and I was really happy that he was open to it, because I think it brought a lot of excitement, and it was just a new way to sort of collect things. So I did jump into the HCS20 last night and started playing around with the toolkit. I couldn't get it to work on my PC, but I managed to get the app running on my MacBook. So one of the interesting things I saw was I was watching like all the tutorial videos that like Patches made, and that actually you made too, Brandon. I watched.
Oh, right.
Yours. Yeah. So that helped a lot. And I noticed that there's a metadata field when you're creating the HES20. So I'm assuming that in the future, this could display things, say in a wallet or some sort of an app, right? Because Patches mentioned it follows the same NFT standard that we already use. So I actually went in and created like what would be an NFT using the Hedera standard, and I minted an HES20, whatever you want to call it, a token or whatever. But I used the metadata field and put a full NFT in it, So I'm kind of curious to see if like eventually that will display the image and the metadata fields. Because what I did was I did a pixel boon, and in the background of the pixel boon says Hashnals all over it. So it's just pointing to IPFS, I guess, at this point, and no one can see it, but it's definitely minted, so to speak. so and then I was talking to one of my friends, and he's like, that's on Bitcoin, I think it's BRC 721 when you do that. So essentially I may have made the first unless
HCS 721 or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
So unfortunately Matt Smitty's beat you with his Ingy pass.
Oh no.
And the intention of that metadata field is just like how there's a HIP that's going forward with adding a metadata field to the top of a fungible token where you can put in when Hashpack displays the token, right? It'll show like the little image. So that was the intent. And BRC 721, you're 100% right, except that it doesn't have a unique serial number. So they're still fungible, right? After you send it from a wallet, it's kind of like a Go Mint fungible token NFT, because it would ladder up to that main metadata, but what you hold is fungible. If I sent you through, So
I wasn't expecting it to be a unique thing, but I was wondering if like the image would display.
It should. And I'm super hesitant to introduce. I have the HCS built out, but I'm super hesitant to introduce it because I don't want people to start minting, HCS NFTs. The intent of a image-based HCS would be badges in a game that doesn't want to be an NFT, or something that you don't really want a secondary market for, but it also has an image for your players or for information to send to someone.
Well, in my defense, to the Smitty's thing, the HES20 that I made is called Hashnal, and the description says the first Hashnal. So I think I can still claim it.
Is the tick Hashnal? Yeah. I think someone already minted that tick, so I think it was an invalid deploy.
No, I checked. Someone minted it with an S, like plural.
Look at that.
So no one had done the actual Hashnal. So
okay.
I double checked on Cantor's little indexer on his websites, so I think I'm okay.
Well, unfortunately, that's the. I don't know if you're in the room, but Cantor's indexer, my indexer, there's no currently working indexer for.
Then maybe I'm full of crap.
Well, we don't know. It's Schrodinger's HCS20. It could be deployed or it could not be deployed. But until we re-index everything, because if you could tell, like the supplies are off and stuff. Invalid transactions were getting into valid transaction table in his index, so it broke the display of balances.
I see.
So we have to start over, and now we have to catch up to 13 million, right? So, tis a silly place. We're trying to make this work, but when we we can let you know if it's real.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's really just playing around, and I want to make an HES20 for Hangry Barboons, like officially. So because there's a lot of community members playing around with points and stuff. Like I can create a big hangry hamster, and using HCS20 we can tally up who has the most points and stuff to win a giveaway or something like that is what I see as a use case, maybe for a project like an NFT project. So it'll be interesting.
I love that. Just before I move on here, I had a question for Patches, which was kind of like, is there an element here?
I'm sorry. I'm 4 minutes late for a meeting. I got a piece. Sorry.
Oh my God. Okay. Get back to work. Patches, the man, the myth, the legend. Well, then maybe a question for you, Hangry. It's been a while. How are you doing, man? How's your year starting off?
The year's starting off great. Yesterday, my son turned 6 months old.
Right on.
So he's doing great. He's healthy and just kind of enjoying being a dad.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations. Yeah. That's awesome. 6 months. That's amazing, dude. And that's really cool what you talk about with HCS 20 with NFTs. Like, do you see, like, looking at NFTs on Hedera, of course, they're minted on the token service. They have royalties baked in. They have all of these different capabilities. They're very robust. And they can be used in like atomic transfers and like all the things that enable these economies. Now, when you talk about minting NFTs or something, or when the conversation happens around minting NFTs or inscribing them on HCS, like, do you have any ideas about that, or has your thought process like not quite got there yet?
I mean, I see the value in that it avoids some of the regulatory issues and stuff that like Patches has mentioned. So you're not creating, say, a fungible token necessarily. You're creating points, and that makes it easier to have fun with it. I think from a creator standpoint, you can have some peace of mind to gamify it. And I was actually going to use Discord. Like, they have a little currency system within Discord where you just create a bot, and then you can assign an economy to your Discord server, and people can come in and win, whatever you want to call the currency. You can call it bananas, and you can basically have a leaderboard of who holds the most bananas. So, but it's not on chain or on Hashgraph. So that's sort of the issue. But now this is on, what you want to call it, on Hashgraph. Yeah. So it's you can follow the trail, so to speak. That's cool. I think a lot of artists were interested in ordinals because of the art being on chain too. Whereas I guess most other networks, it's not technically on the network. You're pointing to somewhere else. Yeah. So that was that was sort of the thing that got me interested. That's why I jumped in February when it came out, ordinals, or I guess it was technically came out in December. But as soon as I heard about it, I started learning and inscribing stuff, because I like the idea of Bitcoin being like, the first crypto, and then you can somehow put art on it. And I know there's a lot of like conflicting opinions about the whole thing. Like, it's sort of an illusion. But the thing is, and Patches has said this, if there's consensus around a protocol, then it becomes real, especially if enough people agree on it. And ordinals there's definitely enough people that agree that it's a thing. So that's exactly what's happened with HCS 20. There's consensus. The devs are teaming together to make it real. And so here it is.
Absolutely. That's all this is. That's all this technology is just agreeing on what messages are going to be sent. And if everyone kind of agrees and does it, then dApps and wallets and everyone can put their hand in and start digesting that information and displaying images and doing those types of things.
And that carries over to all types of projects, like even NFT art projects. Like a lot of projects come and go, fail from an artist's perspective. But if enough people rally around an art project, it also becomes legit and real. So the community's probably basically the most important thing. Because without it, then it's not real. You're either ignored or forgotten or whatever. So the community is the key.
Absolutely. And then on standards too, it's like this matches what's happening on other networks as well, including Bitcoin, including some of these other networks. So it's also interesting. Like one of the things Patches touches on is like the ability for these creators and developers and other people to be able to look at Hedera and go, hey, I'd like to try that out, but they can just do exactly what they're doing over there on Hedera. So I think it also kind of opens a door. It's kind of like what Mance was saying about HCS being the gateway drug to Hedera. It's like, hey, that it was that for enterprise. Now maybe it could be that for retail. It's really interesting. I think that ordinals were like a major curveball for everybody. And I think maybe Hedera is going to catch a curveball and it probably is going to feel really weird,
Ordinals also took off because they had a very fun way of collecting right from the beginning where everyone valued the first inscriptions more. So like the first 1,000 are like super, they call inscriptions, another name for them, digital artifacts. So it's like you're literally going out there hunting for stuff and, oh, you found this rare, artifact. It's like a kind of a game and it's like pure collecting. So and on Bitcoin, it's very hard to create utility outside of the art and the community around it because there's no royalties with ordinals. Each inscription is numbered sequentially, so it's very easy to say, okay, this one's early. This is like really important. And then they've also, you go into it further, they have identified which sats within the Bitcoin are rare, uncommon, mythic, legendary, whatever you want to call it. They have like different categories of sats that you can put the art on, and that can raise the value. So it becomes sort of a little game, a little collecting game within the whole ecosystem. And something that we haven't really considered is like we sort of had that with token IDs. We have early token IDs, and you can say, well, those are early mints, but as far as I know, there's no meta in the Hedera NFT ecosystem where we value earlier token IDs for art. But well, sort of, I guess there were some artists early on that were like hesitant to switch their token IDs, because everyone wanted to keep those early ones. So that feeling was there. I don't think it became real though,
Yeah, I think the GoMint stuff was a blow to that. Like, I think that was the play on GoMint like, I'm going to get all these low numbers and then
but they ended up being fungible.
Yes.
Right?
So I think that kind of took the wind out of those sails, in my opinion.
True. Yeah.
I agree with you. It could come back. Like that could be a meta resurgence for the NFT ecosystem.
If the marketplaces can, group them together, because that was the thing. Like if people were minting each NFT on separate token IDs, even though it was from the same collection. So then what we need is, if there is a collection that was super early, that it can be grouped together within a marketplace. Right. And I think Centex has started to do that anyway, because I see them grouping together even my separate collections under Hangry Barboons. So that's possible.
I think that's what the HCS 20 stuff is showing us. There's a way. If something is a little wonky or strange, it's, as you said, I mean, however wonky or strange it may be, if everyone's doing it, it's something to build on. I think that organic community kind of thing, it's what's everyone getting out of it at the end of the day, Yeah. But anyways, really great having you on, man. It's been too long. Was there anything, before I move on to the rest of the news here, was there anything you wanted to mention about the project or shout outs or anything?
Well, I have a lot that I'm working on this year. So I'm pretty much head down creating new art, and I'm excited.
I love it.
I'll announce some stuff later. Yeah.
I'll have to have you back on when you got some big stuff coming. Let me know.
Sounds great.
That's super exciting. All right. Thanks so much, man. Take care. All right. So let's get back into it. Back into some news here. That was a great conversation, by the way, about HCS 20. I think that when we look at HCS 20, when we look at these different things, it's like, it's exciting. It's cool. It's fresh. It's new. Got to have something. It's been a pretty crazy bear market. There's been a lot that's happened over the last 2 years. I'll actually quote Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He said something really interesting, which was, a lot of the times what's exhausting or draining isn't necessarily like the work that you do or these types of things these projects or things that we're doing. And sometimes the best way to rest isn't necessarily to like stop doing stuff. Sometimes the draining stuff is like doing things that don't have a positive result or don't see success or don't have momentum. And I think that it's really hard to see that success and get momentum in a bear market. And so I think that that's caused a lot of this, exhaustion for a lot of people. But now we're doing some things that are seeing some instant traction that are exciting. And I think that'll re-energize us. I think to be re-energized in the Web3 space, to be re-energized in the Hedera ecosystem is to just kind of roll up your sleeves and get to work, dive into something. Now's the time. It seems that there's a little bit of a lightness. It seems that there's open minds. There's some energy. There's a little bit of money. So now's the time to kind of dive in, I'd say. It'll energize you. Just in from Watcher Guru, spot Bitcoin ETF applicant ARK Invest CEO says SEC hack will not delay ETF decision. We're also seeing the price of Bitcoin going up over the past 30 minutes. So definitely some stuff happening. The needle is moving. The needle is wiggling. I want to talk about some stuff from Canada, just because I don't know what the hell we're doing up here. So USDC in Canada, what do I have here? So this is really a bummer. I was kind of surprised. So the headline here is Newton Exchange in Canada forced to delist USDC, as will all other Canada exchanges, as, quote, stablecoins are securities. So there's this ongoing conversation. And it's around how do we handle crypto in Canada? I think Canada is taking a really weird and not effective and bad approach in a lot of ways. It's never a good sign when the exchanges in your country are forced to delist USDC. It's not good. And we've seen many exchanges in Canada kind of, go down the tubes. There was a really good comment on the Reddit Hedera community on this from Chris G0 says, basically for Coinbase and everyone else to maintain the USDC in the Canadian market, they have to register the USDC as a security in Canada. If so, then that will screw up their entire Coinbase versus SEC litigation approach and strategy. If not, they lose a substantial market with other markets to follow. Very well played between the SEC and the OSC, so the counterpart to the SEC in Canada. So it's really crazy. If Coinbase were to acquiesce to this in Canada, it would definitely take a hit to their case in the US potentially. And if they don't, then it may cause them losing a market. It may cause buying HBAR for me to become much more difficult. I'm not super enthused about being in Canada for crypto right now. Through a crypto lens, it's just not, I'm not super jazzed, guys. Also too, the Bank of Canada is doing something again on the topic of just being unhinged. Headline here in the Toronto Sun. Toronto is a major city in Canada for folks listening. The Bank of Canada files for, quote, digital dollar and other related trademarks. You can't make this up. The Bank of Canada asserted ownership of, quote, digital dollar, quote, digital Canadian dollar, and, quote, central bank digital currency in both official languages, according to Blacklock's reporter. So I'm not even going to go into this. It's not even that interesting. It's just drives me nuts. I don't know what's going on up here, but yeah, the Bank of Canada is trying to like trademark terms. It's like back in the 90s and early 2000s when you'd have people trying to trademark like World Wide Web or something. It's craziness. It's craziness, guys. I don't know what's going up on here. Sorry. Now here's a cool headline from Canada. I had to find one positive thing. This comes from @CryptoRationale on Twitter. Says, quote, seems like Canada is going to have / is having some mortgage documents verified on public DLT blockchain through Hedera through OneSpan. So OneSpan, as we know, is working with, all major banks. Actually, King Solomon that's listening right now did a great breakdown of this. And just regarding like the OneSpan acquisition of ProvenDB and the patents and all sorts of different things. But when we look at OneSpan, they acquired a company called ProvenDB. ProvenDB has been using Hedera for verification on the Hashgraph for a long time. OneSpan works with all the banks. They acquire them. Now they're using ProvenDB's technology in Hedera for all these different types of documents and authentication and trust and this and that, right? And so it looks as though in Canada, we've got some major banks like BMO, and RBC in Canada using OneSpan and ProvenDB. Potentially right now or coming up. So it's very interesting. Just a little bit of a kind of maybe a breadcrumb, a rumor. But to me, the connection is kind of there. It's like, major bank in Canada using OneSpan solution, which is using the technology acquired from ProvenDB, which leverages Hedera, right? I mean, the Hedera meeting minutes are authenticated on the Hashgraph through ProvenDB. Right. So they have been for years. And their technology is used extensively. So it's really interesting. So, hey, we're doing something cool. Now, last week I wanted to have SaucerSwap on the show, but they're not doing a ton of live interviews right now. I think like a lot of major projects right now, they're kind of heads down, working on a bunch of stuff. They have some major updates they're doing and they're rolling out so many different things, but they did take the time to answer a question I had. I asked them, what do you believe has been the key factor in SaucerSwap's success as you near the milestone of 2 million transactions besides building on Hedera? Now I sent that on January 2nd. So that was them approaching 2 million. Now they're well over 2 million transactions, which is crazy. 2 million trades. So this is what SaucerSwap said. I'll just read it. I haven't read it yet, but this is SaucerSwap's response to me. So, quote, SaucerSwap's growth as it approaches 2 million trades can be attributed to several strategic initiatives. The introduction of concentrated liquidity significantly enhanced the DEX's efficiency, allowing liquidity providers to optimize earnings and manage risk, while traders benefit from larger swaps with reduced slippage and fees. This innovation led to a 150% increase in TVL and a tenfold surge in daily trading volume. The protocol's tokenomics underwent a pivotal adjustment, notably a 60% reduction in Sauce emission rate, extending its runway. Although this resulted in lower inflation-driven yields, the increase in fees, APR compensated for this change. A novel aspect of the tokenomics is the liquidity aligned reward initiative. They called it Larry. The mascot's named Larry. I love it. Rewarding users based on the utilization of their liquidity in trades. Additionally, considerable improvements in UI and UX in the SaucerSwap web app have played a crucial role. Both V1 and V2 functionalities are seamlessly integrated, and the web app offers users various volatility strategies for liquidity provision, complete with detailed depth charts to aid in understanding market structure. This comprehensive approach has been integral to SaucerSwap's success. Very thorough response. Expect nothing less from the SaucerSwap people. And for me, I think that it's great to have a DEX like SaucerSwap. I think, big shout out to them. I think that, the DEX ecosystem, like I said on Hedera, I think definitely needs to be enhanced much more. But I think, whichever way you slice it, a lot rests on the shoulders of, what SaucerSwap, and Stater did in the early days, of DEX. I say early days. What they did, a year and a half ago. That is early days. But shout out. Thanks for the message, SaucerSwap. Thank you for passing that along. Hashpack had a bunch of updates too. They did a token minting tool. You can mint your fungible tokens. So here's the thing. This is what's really breakthrough right now is if you've got an idea, this is like a choose your own adventure. This is how great development in the ecosystem has been. You got to choose your own adventure. Let's say you've got an NFT project or something and you're like, I want to do some kind of token or points for my community, but I don't want to be open up to regulatory scrutiny. Use HCS20 and do points. Or let's say you're somebody that's like, I'd really love to start a meme coin project like Grelf or something like that and have some fun. And I'm, comfortable taking on all sorts of different wacky risks. And I want to try something. I want to go for it. Well, now you've got a tool built into Hashpack to just mint a fungible token and kind of go for it. So it's great. And I mean, there's many tools out there to do all sorts of different things, but huge shout out to Hashpack for like continually kind of like putting in those features, putting those updates. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Many wallets too are like launching like new, tools for building all sorts of different things. I love to see it. I love to just see tools for make it easier for people to make things. Man, I am bullish. Legion Social. There's another social network on Hedera now. This was one that we talked about last year. Funnily enough, this brings us full circle. Last time I talked about Legion Social was last year in January, because they were at Davos, and they were showcasing the demo of a social media app and their concept of, what would that be about? How would it function? What pain points would it solve? So they tweeted out, and again, Legion Social, very similar like Galaxy. Like we got some social media plays on Hedera. Ain't no thing. They tweet out, alpha version of Legion is out on Android and iOS. Please test it by creating a new account through the app and let us know what we should do to improve on it. So they've got a wallet. They've got the ability to do some other things. And I think they're going to scale it. It's a different approach. I mean, Galaxy initially did an iOS app and an Android app. They moved to the web app. A lot of people are moving that way. This platform has the iOS app and the Android app, a different approach. It's going to be interesting to see, but nonetheless, another kind of like social media kind of thing on Hedera. I dig it. Legion Social, check it out. I'm going to be diving into it more as we kind of get through the month. Hedera mainnet was upgraded to version 0.45. As we know, as we kind of watch the mainnet transactions, they're still at 21 transactions per second. So a little alarming to a lot of people. For folks unfamiliar, Hedera was operating at under 3-digit TPS for years, averaging usually, if you took, the first 3 years of Hedera, averaged it out, Hedera would probably be running at, 10 to 30 transactions per second. It was what it was. And, of course, then we know last year in January, we had a little bit of a step function, and we ended up near the end of the year being at about 3,000 transactions per second. Heading into the new year, drop off, single low double digit transactions. We're at 24 right now. And people go, okay, it's okay. No cause for panic. This happens because Atma.io from Avery Dennison is driving most of the transactions on the mainnet. So we can safely assume it's going to largely follow their business cycles. It's a new year. It's pretty straightforward. They're probably doing different things, upgrades, blah, blah, blah. And it's happened in the past. There's a pattern here, usually like quarterly or at a regular cadence. Avery Dennison will shut down, retool, ramp back up. And usually they'll ramp back up, much higher than they were at. Now, with Davos coming up in literally 2 days, I think it's pretty important for Hedera to be running at, 3,000 transactions per second as it was. I don't know how good of a look it's going to be if Hedera is at Davos and they're not the number one spot on whatever it is, ChainSpect or Real TPS or whatever. So, I think that in the past this has happened. I'm not worried. I think it'll be fine. And most likely it'll return higher than it was. We saw actually it return yesterday at 1,200 or 1,500 TPS. So clearly things are, temporary, but nonetheless, a little bit freaky. But, it's good to see the testnet rocking at like 30,000 transactions per second at times. It's great to see. There is the upcoming testnet reset happening. So this is a serious message for all developers out there. On January 25th, they're resetting the testnet. The testnet is being wiped. So make sure to set up new wallets and all that kind of stuff. If you've got smart contracts running on testnet or different things like that, prepare, fix your stuff. Testnet's getting wiped. So stay tuned on that. Dovu has been added to C14. So if people are familiar, C14 is like a really great fiat on-ramp directly into the Hedera ecosystem, accessible in a bunch of wallets like Hashpack. And basically, you just go, like, for example, you load up Hashpack, you go to buy some tokens. I think there's like Karate, there's now Dovu, there's USDC, there's HBAR, there's a few others. I think there's Grelf. And you just go and you just buy in the wallet just via fiat. So it's a great on-ramp. And for people excited about Dovu added to C14. So basically what that means is it's much, much easier now for people to just take their regular old money and just put it straight into Dovu right on Hedera. I think that's fantastic. And I dig it. I think the tweet, I'll read the tweet they sent out. I think it was nice. C14 is proud to announce our partnership with Dovu. Dovu is doing fantastic work accelerating humanity's progress towards net zero using powerful Hedera technology. I love it. I dig it. I want to give a quick update on, a lot of people have been asking about Wallet Connect and the project. Full disclosure, I'm doing project management for it. I'm working with Hgraph and all the different wallet providers and community members. I'll say that I'm just, really amazed and blown away by the level of collaboration and the work that's been done. It's really amazing to see kind of competitors come together and work together to get something done. It's never a straight path. It's a winding road, but it's just so exciting to see that, Hedera article come out before the holidays, and all the different wallets are working on, their respective integrations and all those types of things. And I think it's really great. And so it's approaching the finish line. There's some more stuff coming. The most important thing is that it'll be available open sourced in the Hashgraph organization, and it will be, owned by the community. It's an open source community standard that should be, able to update and make sure it's current and any fixes can be done and stuff. So that's where we're at. It's like all this incredible work from this working group has been accomplished. Everybody's now working on their own respective next phases, and all the hard work is making its way to its official capacity, and it'll be happening really soon. So just a quick update on that. And just, a quick shout out again to all the wallets and, Hgraph and developers and the community. It's crazy. You look at stuff like HCS20 and this kind of theme we're talking about community driven standards or tooling or infrastructure or whatever it may be. And it's just great to see. It's really great to see. It's a treat to kind of be behind the scenes and watch it unfold and be a part of it all. So shout out. Canon is what appears to me making a camera that leverages Hedera in some capacity. So there was a press release put out by Canon, and essentially Thomson Reuters has a technology that takes hashes of photography and leverages the Hedera network to prove their kind of like provenance, right? Preserving a picture's data provenance on a chain of integrity. And it's important for so many different use cases, especially, news reporting. And as we see AI starting to grow, like I saw some really crazy AI generated images that literally look like a selfie from like a war zone or like a house fire or any kind of like crazy emotional breaking news. And then you think about the actual photojournalism that happens in those situations and how things could be manipulated or changed or different stuff. And we talk about the cross section of AI and blockchain or Hashgraph quite often on the show. And we know that Lehman Baird, the co-founder of Hedera and the inventor of Hashgraph, has a deep background in AI and machine learning. So naturally, you look at this and effectively you kind of go, okay, so Canon's website has a press release about, a camera that's going to be leveraging a technology from Thomson Reuters. And that technology, it uses Hedera. And a prototype Canon camera is mentioned in this press release that basically says the pilot project saw Reuters photojournalist Violeta Santos Mora capture pictures using a prototype Canon camera that digitally assigns each photograph and its corresponding time, date, and location with a unique identifier, aka a hash value, and then cryptographically signs them to establish a root of trust for their authenticity. The photos are then registered into a public blockchain, obviously referring to Hedera, and updated after each modification by the Reuters pictures desk. This process continues until the photo is distributed with its metadata, edit history, and blockchain registration embedded in the photograph using a new C2PA standard. To verify the picture's authenticity, news customers can compare its unique identifier, the hash value in the file, on the public ledger. So very, very, very interesting stuff. Obviously, Canon, a big company. A lot of people know Canon. And again, it has to be said, on the press release on Canon's website, Hedera is not mentioned. Hashgraph is not mentioned. The technology from Thomson Reuters is mentioned. If you go to the website to look about the technology that Thomson Reuters has, Hedera is mentioned. Hashgraph is mentioned. So there are these, as this technology grows, as adoption expands, the degrees in separation in regards to a lot of these developments are going to grow. We all know, Hedera is going to be the plumbing of the internet. That's how it's described by, its founders. And what that means is that as these tech stacks get built up, the degree of separation that Hedera will have will just continue to grow. So it won't be abnormal to be talking about a news story that is a product that uses a technology, that uses a technology, that uses a technology, that uses Hedera, right? And we're starting to see that a bit. And it's really up to us to determine how close it has to be relevant. Because at a certain point, if Hedera becomes ubiquitous enough, it can be argued, again, something that Lehman talks about is like, everybody will be using Hedera without knowing it. And when we get to that point, it just becomes less and less and less about the network itself, and it becomes more about the technology, Hashgraph. So it's very interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. HBAR suite has gone live on Hedera. It's exciting. I think that as I said, the DeFi landscape, it's so important for that to grow, as we want to see mass adoption, as we want to see, growth in the economy on Hedera. And it's really good to see a DEX that isn't smart contract based on Hedera, because I think that Hedera as a network was designed to be around kind of like the AppNet model, and HSuite has this unique approach with what they're calling smart nodes, and so it's essentially a native DEX implementation directly on the native protocol of Hedera, with effectively their own decentralized layer 2 of smart nodes that is architected in a way that's very close to what kind of Lehman Baird described as the vision of kind of what will be built on Hedera. So it's great. It's exciting. I did a swap on it. It's super cool. I'm happy. And I think that, when we look at the other side of the coin, right, that's a challenge to launch a DEX like that. It effectively can put you on a bit of an island, not having a DEX that leverages smart contracts. It creates a lot of additional tech debt for HSuite. It's a lot of heavy lifting. And I don't think they have any funding. Like, they don't have funding from the foundation. They don't have funding from people. So I think it's a very unique approach. It's been a challenging approach. I think they've had a lot of headwinds. But I do like the fact that in this ecosystem, we have a DEX that doesn't use smart contracts. I think it's cool. And I think that that's the right way to go about competition in this ecosystem, right? I think that very easily we could have, a bunch of DEXs that are based on Uniswap. It's exciting to see kind of like a true variety on Hedera. I think that's kind of cool. So yeah, HSuite is live. Go check it out. Try it out. It's open. You can do liquidity pools, but keep in mind, it's very different from a traditional DEX. There truly is not another DEX like it, for better or for worse, right? It doesn't use smart contracts. It's really kind of completely different under the hood. And I think that there's a lot of learning to be done. I think there's a lot of improvements to be done. And I think that there's a lot of growth that needs to happen, but it is what it is. It's a DEX that doesn't use smart contracts. It's pretty cool. I'm just going through. There's a couple things here that like aren't super, super duper important. Oh yeah. The HBAR Bull Show this week. Shout out to Brandon at the HBAR Bull Show. Really great episode. Just wanted to talk about a couple things because I think that it was very interesting. He did an interview with Charles Aikens. Really good, really cool. Zepsi also kind of highlighted SaucerSwap is going multilingual. So SaucerSwap being a DEX on Hedera, the fact that they're going multilingual with, I guess, their documentation or their website or their Discord or whatever it may be, just shows signs of that growth, right? Like if you have a company that needs to go multilingual, it's a sign of growth. If you look at any SaaS company like, Squarespace, when they went multilingual, it was an inflection point of growth. So you could look at, that as a potential inflection point for SaucerSwap. Also, Rob Allen on the governing council was on the HBAR Bull Show for the Shark Bite segment. Just a few things I wanted to just touch on that were very interesting to me in regards to a few things that he was asked. He said something that really stood out to me, which was he sees other networks chasing TPS, and he hypothesizes that it may force those other networks to show how frail they are. And he said those words, how frail they are. And that's really interesting to me now that the narrative in crypto more broadly is kind of circling around TPS more. I think that, that's an interesting way to look at it, right? If other networks are gunning for it, are they going to falter on the way there? Like, are they going to, get egg on their face? It's going to be interesting to see. He also admitted, we talked about this on the show a lot. The HBAR Bull talks about it a lot. The branding of the consensus service and the confusion around that. Rob Allen admits, the issue of branding of the consensus service, but they're not going to change it. He's on the governing council. He obviously knows. So it is what it is. He says also that they have governing council candidates close in the pipeline. So Rob Allen saying, again, on the governing council saying there are governing council members close to announcement. That's what I would take away from it. Those are my words. He does see it being within scope of 5 to 10 new governing council members this year. So that puts us at one a month, one every other month. He also spoke in regards directly to the governance in the LLC. This was a question from someone on YouTube that was like, hey, how our governing council expiries handled. We were talking about that on episode, I can't remember what episode it was, but I was talking about that mechanism and kind of what we could expect. And no, I think it was episode 106 or 105, right at the end of the last year. But anyways, Rob was asked this question. He dove into the LLC agreement, and he basically says a couple things on this, just in regards to governing council members expiring, being elected, this and that. 4 really important points that Rob Allen said. The first one was the LLC agreement states that at the end of a governing council member's first term, they're automatically nominated for another 3-year term. Automatic. A minimum of 2/3 of approval from the governing council members is required to approve this renewal term. This automatic renomination ensures governing council members do not unintentionally lose their position. So that answers a lot in regards to like their terms expiring. And the second is the agreement considers the situation when the council is fully staffed and there are enterprises eager to join. At this point, the 2/3 vote for renewal may differ from the current scenario with 10 vacant seats. So that's a great point. There's a scenario right now where they've got 10 vacant governing council seats. The conversation about expiring seats and those types of things and voting to keep people on and from expiring when there's 10 people needed, that's a little different than, let's say, a full governing council and these expirations come up. Our governing council member is going to be more or less likely to vote, to free up space. So that's also an interesting dynamic to think about. Third is the agreement includes a for-cause removal and termination of interests clause. So if there is just cause, the board can recommend the removal of a governing council member who will then face a retention vote. The retention vote requires a 2/3 majority of the council members to decide on the removal or retention of the member in question. And finally, any governing council member can voluntarily withdraw from the council given 30 days notice. So that's never happened, or it's only happened once, Rob Allen said, and it was for the Swiss blockchain council type thing. They had to shut down their network, so there was no point in them being a governing council member, but governing council members can step back. So it's kind of funny in the LLC agreement for Hedera, we talk about, this governing council member is going to leave, or, that governing council member is going to leave due to their term expiring. Well, in reality, any governing council member could voluntarily withdraw from the council giving 30 days notice, according to the LLC agreement. So that's worth keeping in mind too. If no one's voluntarily withdrawn, then, pretty unlikely that anyone will leave due to something expiring. And Shane also shared some insights on a HBAR Foundation space. This is our last story of the day, by the way, folks. Shane shared a bunch of insights on the HBAR Foundation spaces, and basically, here's what they were. Some of the world's largest asset managers, private equity organizations, and banks are kind of like aware of Hedera, talking to related organizations, those types of things. Shane says some of which have investigated or integrated Hedera, but they weren't even aware of it. So there's also that side to it, where what they're seeing is a lot of major organizations investigating or integrating Hedera, testing it out, and they're not aware of it initially. So that's exciting. There are some partnerships they're working on. One is Oasis Pro, which is like Oasis Pro is the first U.S. regulated alternative exchange platform in the U.S. The ecosystem already has Arcax, which is the only FCA regulated digital asset exchange in the UK, or one of the only. So this is really interesting. And when you factor in, Toko with Vara in the EU or in the UAE, it's really interesting to see Hedera's positioning with their partners and stuff like that. It's like Hedera is well positioned in relation to, a a first US regulated alternative exchange platform in the US, one in the UK and one in the UAE, regulated, right? So that's very, very, very interesting. The foundation also says they're having some level of discussion with the top 5 financial institutions in the hopes that they will continue to explore tokenization as they warm up to Hedera. So Shane's been really kind of painting a picture of big talks, which I think is exciting to everybody. And they are engaged with IT teams at banks, right? So these teams try every single piece of software. Banks have subscriptions to literally everything. Banks spend all of the money on everything because they want to test it all out. They want to know what the best is. They want to understand everything inside and out. So Hedera is most likely one of those things. And that's why we'll often see headlines of banks testing things on other networks versus Hedera. It's just because they literally test absolutely everything. And, seems the foundation is connected with IT teams at banks because those are kind of who make the decisions. So it's good to see. Those are some good updates from Shane. Now, I wanted to just quickly say again, just before we start winding things down, it's funny, like on my computer screen right now, I'm looking at, my face on my webcam. As I said at the beginning of the show, I'm recording a video version. A lot of people will, be sharing their computer screen. They got their webcam for these types of things, for these types of shows. A lot of people have been curious about if I'll do something like that. So I'm doing that this week for the show as a test. I don't intend really to release it. It's really just, it's just my computer screen and what I'm looking at and my camera just a little in the corner. I kind of want to, watch it back myself, kind of see what's going on. I'm trying to figure out a shape for a potential kind of more video components for the show. I'll probably post a clip of this, maybe tomorrow or this week or something, and just kind of feel it out. But I'm growing the show. A big piece of feedback I got about the show is video. So that's something I'm going to be looking at now that we've got audio taken care of. Obviously, we're going to be taking a look at video, but just wanted to really say again, huge shout out to, supporters of the show, people tipping HBAR. Literally it's possible because of contributors of the show. No ads, no sponsors, right? It's, independent community supported news for the Hedera ecosystem. I just love doing it. And it's the highlight of my week. So I really enjoy it. And I mean, lots of people support the show. And they support it just by sending HBAR to a Hedera address. That info is available on hashgraph.news, the new website for the show. Go check it out. You can just send some HBAR. It all adds up, even if it's a tiny amount. I appreciate the fun memos. I read those. And yeah, I think that's really what it's about for me is community supported news that doesn't have ads, that's live. I'm going to keep doing it. I really, really enjoy it. I think there's a lot of room to grow for the show. Seeing a lot of growth, especially on podcast platforms and YouTube and stuff, starting to take off. Now I did ask the question, people's thoughts on HCS 20. I asked the Twitter community, the X community. I asked people on the listening to the show. And really, I think the overall themes when we talk about HCS 20, it was awesome to have Patches and Hangry on the show to kind of just touch on this is I think that, from an HBAR perspective, from a Hedera community perspective, the concept of HTS 20 is very strange. You kind of look at it and you go, well, geez, there's so many better ways of doing this on Hedera, right? It doesn't really solve a ton of problems right off the get-go. But at the same time, you look at it and you go, well, actually, there's a lot of really interesting things you can do with it, and your brain starts to open up to it and you start to think about things a little differently. And it's very interesting at this point. And you start to go, okay, we can do points now. We don't have to use the token service. We can do points for our NFT project and, not be open up to regulatory scrutiny and different things like that. And so it just gets you thinking. And then you really understand this is a standard that's been developed on Bitcoin and a bundle of other networks that are already using this. And it's so important, especially on the precipice of a bull market, for Hedera as a community and as a network to be a part of those conversations, right? To be a part of that meta. And by having this, standard on our network, what it means is a door's open, right? This is being used a lot on other networks, and it's one of the number one conversations. This puts Hedera in that conversation. And it's great because on Hedera, it all works so much better, right? HCS20 is running at, dozens of or hundreds of transactions per second. Just that one little meta protocol. So I think it's great. I think it's cool. I think that the general feedback, though, again, from the community is just like confusion. They don't really quite get it. And I think that they feel like maybe they're missing out on something when they really aren't. They maybe feel like, when I say missing out on something, I mean like a traditional NFT drop or a token mint or something. These are like valueless points on the consensus service. I think that, again, like I said, the patches earlier, is it's like, the battle of these types of standards and initiatives are like not coming up against resistance, but coming up against indifference, So, I think that when we look at how this rolled out on other networks on Bitcoin, and it's very organic. It's very, again, move fast and break things, a lot of confusion, but that kind of excitement, that kind of energy, that's what gets you adoption. That's what drives innovation. It may feel messy at first, and it may feel like it doesn't make sense, but really, like, take some time for the dots to connect, play around with it, check it out. The reality is it's happening, and it's not just like it's this new thing that popped up on Hedera. This is something that is huge on so many other networks that so many people use, and could cause an influx of developers to come check out Hedera. So it's cool. And we need something like that. And I think that, the responses I got from the community were really kind of the same response over and over again, right? It's, hey, I'm interested in this, but I don't get it. Right. So I think my answer to that is just check it out. No harm done. I mean, there's a Hedera testnet too. You can literally do it for free. So I would say check it out. Keep up. These are the kind of things that move really quick. So if it interests you, if you're curious about it, it's exciting. It's very cool. And like Patches mentioned, there's going to be a Discord opening up soon for people to drop in and check it out. All this stuff is just staying connected and having all that feedback and those criticisms and working through issues. And, the idea is you just kind of eventually get to something that's really cool. It's usable and brings value to the community. So, huge shout out again, Patches and Hangry for hopping up. That was a great conversation. I would say take a minute now for people listening to the show live. Look at who's listening. If you recognize somebody, send them a DM, ask them what's new. It's a new year, right? Let's stay in touch. If you see someone listening that you don't recognize, you don't know about their PFP, you don't know who they are, you're both listening to the show, send them a DM. Maybe it's a new connection that you have. Like, let's stay connected. Let's keep it going. And shout out too to some frequent listeners here, like Tata, Tamara, No Man's Internet, Iron Chief, Celestial Being, Lady HBAR. Huge shout out to everyone tuned in. Appreciate everyone listening right now live. And also to appreciate everyone listening on, YouTube and podcast platforms and, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those different types of things. Like, those are all growing. People are leaving reviews on those platforms. That's a great way to support the show right now is, leave comments and subscribe on YouTube and leave reviews on Spotify and Apple and stuff. It's like, those are great free ways to support the show. And I think this episode really, it's like, the title, We Are So Back. I mean that in all ways. I don't just mean that in like, price going up on different things. I mean that in like development, enthusiasm, excitement, and innovation and confusion and all sorts of different things. It's just, there's energy happening. And when there's energy, it's often followed by, what we'd all like to see, more green candles. And a key area of the energy right now, I'm looking at the Bitcoin charts. We did see a spike back up to 46.6. I don't know what the news is surrounding the Bitcoin ETFs. I know that there's been a few peripheral approvals in the Chicago Options Exchange and different stuff. No official word from the SEC yet. There's a lot of posts going out right now that are a little bit confusing, like that something's been approved or that it's not or whatever it might be. So I'm going to be watching this closely, most likely. Well, not to say most likely, but it's highly speculated by many that today will be the day that the Bitcoin spot ETFs are approved by the SEC. And as we talked about at the beginning of the show, the SEC lost control of their Twitter account. They announced the approval of the ETFs. They walked it back. They didn't say anything to state that they aren't approved. They just said, or they did say that, but not to say that they won't be. Anyways, it's a mess. It's a mess. That's very entertaining. I will say that. Lots of good memes to come out of it. Lots of good, yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right, guys? Lots of good memes. That's what we all want. So yeah, thanks again to everybody listening, tuning in. Thanks to supporters. Again, leave an HBAR tip for the show. The info's pinned to the top of the spaces. There's a Hedera account you can send it to. And it's on the website, hashgraph.news. This has been episode 108. I can't believe it's episode 108. That's crazy. Of Hashgraph Enthusiasts. We are so back. And again, this is a weekly news show. I do interviews too. I'm going to be booking some interviews, so stay tuned for those. Those are kind of like separate shows that I do, not on Wednesdays. And yeah, I mean, make sure to tune in for this news though, every Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on X Spaces every week, right? Wednesdays. That's what's up. And it's live. It's great to just have people stop by for the show and just, the excitement. Like I was like, oh my God, what if this ETF is approved while I'm doing the show? That'd be crazy. And yeah, I think that's really it for the week, guys. Again, hashgraph.news has everything you need. And I think that, going into this year, I think really everyone's mind is like on a bull market. That's, I think, what everyone's expecting. That's, I think, what everyone's feeling. And what impact is that going to have? We're going to have to see. But until then, thanks for listening, everybody. Hello, future. Goodbye, past.
Thanks for listening to the Hashgraph Enthusiast Show, hosted by Brandon Davenport.
Listen to past episodes and support the show at itsbrandond.com/HBAR.
Thanks again so much, everybody. I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for the show. Okay, now I ended the show on Twitter Spaces. Sorry, X Spaces. That's how you do it. Nice, 147 people tuned in. Great. And that is the end of the video thing. I'm still recording the video, but I don't know if I'm going to release this. If I do release it, thanks everyone for tuning in. I guess I'll stop this video recording now. This is my first time doing the video recording stuff. I need to pay attention to this monitor more. I'll get the swing of it. If this is good, if people want it, I'll put it out. I don't know what'll happen though, but we'll see. Anyways, I guess, peace out.